But do we have any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners that we have not rounded off or that may need further address before we get down to our official start?
I think I'm all set. Starts.
All right. Well, as always, it is a pleasure to get the opportunity to play with you guys, to have you all here for us to explore our characters. Because yes, while you breathe life into them, while you animate their souls, I do very much consider them my character as well, because they are entertainment, they are distraction, and they are very intrinsically important to me. I love the idea of playing. You guys have been very, very much the cornerstone for every other facet of play that I have thus far since returning to tabletop. So my appreciation to you all. And if there are no further questions, this is officially Soup City Sins Season 11, Episode 6, Sisters of Mercy's Plenty. When we last left our coterie, they had withdrawn, they had retreated to regroup and analyze what lay before them, to number their steps accordingly, to stay apace of the hounds of the White City who would be pursuing them, to stay ahead of the blackmailer, and to stay ahead of their Lucio's childer, Vivi. Withdrawing and retiring to Sophia's home, the center of a maelstrom of veil-torn and shadowland inhabited space. Not too far from where the shelter actually resides, but far enough outside of their normal operating sphere as to be temporarily, if not permanently, invisible to those who may be hounding their steps. Having made it there just before sunrise and dying for the day, it is with no small bit of inherent shock that their eyes spring open once more into the night. Not only because they have survived yet another impossible situation, but because they are not alone, and because they are not in their normal abodes, either their personal havens or their group haven. They are amidst finery and old world hospitality. The bed upon which they lay, very much the antithesis to their comfortable, well-used and well-known surroundings. Its four-corner posts, its wide, if yet somehow strangely comfortable mattress, its drapes of the room drawn close, keeping all semblance of light out. It could be midnight, it could be sunrise, it could be any hour of the day, and one would not be able to tell with how thickly draped the windows are. So rising into the cool space that is Sophia's guest rooms. Beginning in alphabetical order, would you guys be so kind as to go ahead and roll your rouse roll for the evening? And let's see, has the beast risen with you? And what will be your next steps?
I wasn't here for. I kind of came in at the point of you talking about some sort of role, and I asked what it was, and it's remorse. How does that work?
At the dramatically appropriate moment, we will deal with the ramifications of your actions of granting peace and surcease to what, for you, is just a normal human in a church. And Melinda, would you so kindly go ahead and make your rouse roll for me?
I cannot afford to lose any more humanity.
All right.
I feel like I have too much humanity.
Oh no, that will definitely change. Sophia is definitely a person who by dint of their past and dint of the things they will be involving themselves in, will potentially risk quite a lot. There's no way to not dabble. Yes.
So, what do we? It's just. Remind me, how did you arouse check again?
Exclamation V space 1.
Thank you.
Statistically, the beast is always ever hungry, waiting for the best moment to make every kindred's life a little more difficult. And societally, and what has been passed down through social construct and social understanding is that the beast is versus you are actually the beast. Your darker impulses, that animating spark within your vitae that drives your ambulatory corpse into the night, is personification of all of your darker aspects. It is the personification of that void light vacuum at the core of everything that you are. And it is not something that is solely the purview of the dead, or in the case of the kindred, the undead. It is the manifestation of all of those self recriminations, all of those thoughts, all of those comparative studies that we make one person to the next. Oh, my life would be so much better if I had what they have, or I could be so much richer if I was there. They had such an easier break. It is that magnified due the loss of the balancing chemicals and emotions that we humans have. Kindred vampires, denizens of the dark, don't have that connection one to another. There's even semi-solid bags of liquid that we are. There is a communal aspect to everything that we do. Even those of us who are isolated, secluded, those of us who lean towards being very private citizens, there's a communal aspect to our lives, whether in person or virtually or any other aspect that the kindred intrinsically lack. They are impulse and predator driven through that lack of connection, and that creates a void in them where all of those darker impulses just magnify and grow and act through them. The sad truth is that there's no kindred, no member of the kindred society that is not bent towards being the most avaricious and selfish thing possible. And while the bulk of the culture are able to tease and dance along that razor's edge without giving in, without having that darker set of drives and impulses leap upon them and demand release, Melinda is not quite so lucky. That stress of the last few nights, those moments of tension of the last few weeks and months, rears its head so that upon awakening, those dark drives, that beast is staring her full-fledged in the face. And it's not kicking down the door, but it's waiting for her to make a misstep. With her hunger grown, where does that place Melinda?
So what hunger is Melinda at? No?
Yes.
What was she at 2 or what is she at?
Let's do this. Would you be so kind as to roll 1d10? So just IV1.
All right.
Okay. That places her at hunger 4.
Ooh.
She is ravenous. The beast is not kicking down the door. It is tearing the door off its hinges. And with that situation floating in her mind, awakening in a strange environment, awakening in a place that is not her own, nor any place that she has slept in the last few months, it is a very dangerous sort of moment for her. It is a very I need moment for her. She can hear the sounds of kindred in their beds being burned alive or dragged into the sun. She can hear the sirens in the distance, and she knows that the whispers in the dark are pointing in her direction. The doors are barred. The walls are closing in, and the SI is a few moments from dragging her out into the sun. And with that thought, Hestia, Lucio, Sophia, rising for the evening, the beast manages to not drive you to extremes. It manages to work with where you are. The stress and depression of the last few nights causing it to lay lazily in bed and watch you from a distance. The night is fresh. The sun is gone. What are your plans?
All right. Last night you said we would have to play the long game on this, so how do we go about doing that, Hestia?
Well, the first thing that's going to happen when Hestia gets up is she's at 3 hunger, so she needs to find something to eat. And 2, she is going to check on Arsenio. That is her next thought in her head, and then she'll answer Lucio. So tell me how those things go, and then I'll answer Lucio.
Sophia will send Silvio down to attend to the guests while she gets herself put together.
So, much like every chaotic moment of the coteries past, there is a multiplicity of plans and ideas in front of them. There's an opportunity for all manner of potential success, and there's an equal number of opportunities for failure. Mind focused on tending to Arsenio despite all of the truths that have been bombarding Hestia's dreams, including, if you'd be so kind as to go ahead and roll Resolve plus Blood Sorcery for me, please.
Am I counting the hunger that I'm currently at because of the fact that I haven't said I fed yet, or does that?
Yes, because you haven't had the opportunity to feed, yes. Rising from death, right, resurrecting for the day, and spying Lucio, beginning to ask questions as you stalk towards Arsenio. The dreams that no kindred has, the fantasies that no kindred is aware of during their day death immediately hits Hestia. She sees the city awash in shadow. She sees fire starting just south of the city. She sees Urzuli beset by a slew of Tinkerbells. She sees wolves fighting larger shadow wolves. She sees Arsenio being pushed towards one of two doors. One door opens into a escalator of golden light rising high into the cloud-filled sky, and then through the other, an actual paradise made of shadows and light. And the choice doesn't seem to be his. The choice seems to be someone else's. And that vision and that memory of that vision, those potential futures, those potential moments, those insights as to what may be the case, hit her full force as if someone just whacked her across the head with a bat.
It would kind of almost make her stumble on her steps and stop and close her eyes and kind of shake her head to kind of get it cleared. And as she's thinking about it, she's looking for in her pockets a notepad and pen so that she can write all of what she saw down before she forgets.
Okay. So being aware of this and having been in a situation such as this with Hestia before, is there anything immediately on his mind? Is there anything immediately he's attempting to do to assist or otherwise? Engage.
Hestia, I know that look. What have you figured out?
Not figured out, seen. It's what I've seen. The fire is moving away from Chicago towards somewhere else. And Urzuli is being chased by pixies or fairies. And then wolves are going to be fighting much larger shadow wolves. And Arsenio will have one of two destinies, but it is not his choice which destiny he gets, it's somebody else's. One is a door to the golden light, the other is a door to shadow paradise. Confusing.
Hestia,
What?
I mean this with the utmost respect and reverence for your arcane abilities. Clyde's visions made more sense.
It's not that they don't make sense. You have to understand the premise or situation that they take place in. Urzuli, I know when I spoke to her last, she was running away from Chicago because she's Bahari. So she's being chased. Pixies, I don't know why it would be pixies or fairies. Anyway, but there's a fire starting somewhere else. It doesn't mean literally a real fire. It doesn't have to be literally a real fire. It could just be a fire like somebody's heart or mind. Somebody's gathering something somewhere else, and it's going to connect to Chicago or come back to us somehow. So that's what the fire, I think, is. As far as Arsenio goes, you know what those two choices are. He almost died yesterday. The only two outcomes in his future are possible permanent death and becoming what you are, because it's your blood in his system. But we would have to ask the prince before that ever happens, because obviously that's how we got in trouble last time. That's why it's not his choice as to which door he picks. It's probably your choice as to which door he picks, or the prince's choice as to which door he gets to go through. So how does that not make sense to you?
Because after this whole experience, I'm starting to question whether I should have another child or ever again. So, if he's going to be brought into the fold, well...
But you know Arsenio is not Vivi. Arsenio has been around us for longer than Vivi was. Arsenio knows more. He's more calm. He would have more to gain by being like we are. It would be harder to kill him. That sort of thing.
Vivi
can't
was
dwell on
pretty
that right
calm
now.
before being embraced.
No, she wasn't. She hid it well, but I know she wasn't. She was obsessed with her brother's murder. Obsessed with it. And there were a lot of things that probably should have been shared or told that weren't. I don't know what things Dizzy did or did not tell them about how the fuck things work for us, but I'm betting you a lot of shit was left out. Like the fact that we weren't supposed to fucking attack the church.
All the same, my point is, I'm not ready for this responsibility, and I wasn't when I made Vivi. I only see that in hindsight now, but...
Well, hopefully we will have enough time to either change things so the vision is not true, or that you will be ready by the time that vision needs to happen. But now...
Excuse me. I don't mean to pry. And I can be a little far more quiet than I should at times. Forgive me for that. But Ms. Rossi would like to extend further hospitality and see if there's anything you all would need in the moment.
Legit jumps out of her skin, almost, and lands facing Silvio and looks at him with wide eyes. Fucking bell around your neck, I swear to God. Anyway, food.
Well, I did jingle my keys on purpose. Sorry you guys didn't hear. I forget sometimes.
Food. Please.
I'll take a brandy or lager if you have any. As for blood, I think I'm good for a while. And Lucio's face gets a little bit quieter at that last part and just looks down.
Is Melinda with them?
Melinda is leaving her room, yes.
All right. Oh, and this person's offering them something to eat? Is that what you're...
He's asking after their needs, yes.
Looking over at Melinda, kind of guess, looking at Silvio, I think she needs what I just asked for as well. We both look a little low this morning.
I'm a little peckish, yes.
Excellent, I completely understand. Right this way. Ms. Rossi hasn't had time to restock the larder, but I believe that there may be something that could tide you over until you will have the opportunity to pick up something along the way. And he begins backing away towards the other end of the home.
Does that movement trigger hunt instinct? The backing away?
No, just the opposite. Unfortunately, it is proof positive that he has been associating with Kendra before. By not presenting a weaker, easier moment of prey and keeping his eyes on you all, it assists in not triggering that hunt instinct. His large size and the fact that you all have seen him in action helps keep the monster a little more at bay.
Yeah, because Hestia is tiny anyway, so she wouldn't see him very much as a prey item with his size. So she's just gonna warily kind of follow along and focus. Having finally found the pad in her jacket pocket, writing down everything. Even though she's told Lucio about what she saw, she's still going to write it down to examine it later. So food and vision is what she's writing down and thinking.
While they're sorry, go ahead.
While they're all heading off with Silvio, what's on Lucio's mind? Is he going to attempt to remain where he is, or is he going to continue on the path that Hestia was taking towards Arsenio?
He's going to follow her to see Arsenio, and along the way, his main thought is trying to piece together some sort of plan, some way to figure out basically how to get themselves out of this debacle, which basically requires two things. Number one, catching the blackmailer, and number two, catching Vivi. And he's trying to figure out some sort of thread or some sort of pathway that he can go about to do at least one of those two.
Would it be some kind of roll intelligence and firearms?
Intelligence and firearms. Would a pistol specialty apply in this case, or no?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time in a while I'm rolling without hunger dice. That is a 3.
It is. It is a 3 entirely. Having been up to the belfry, having been up to the sniper's roost that Vivi had put together, and while no longer alive, there are still certain clues and certain indications that were prevalent. One, from that vantage and being completely unknown of, that shot could have been attempted at any point with you all crossing the street. That shot was not attempted when you were heading into the home. Means the likelihood of it being a trap to lay you out, to draw you out solely, was never on the table. There's also the fact that from that vantage point, she was able to watch everyone enter and exit the home. And if she had wanted to hit Arsenio, there were far more opportunities to do so previously. She wasn't aiming at Arsenio. She was aiming at you. And that combined with the placard she left let you know that Hestia really did pull your fat from the fire. Hestia made a conscious choice. And that choice left Arsenio to be the victim of the shot. And while it would have sucked, having been shot both alive and as you currently are, you know that she wasn't aiming at your head. She wasn't attempting to kill you, merely punish you. And as you all settle at the countertop, those thoughts are assailing you as trying to piece things together. That's what stands out the most. It wasn't a kill shot for anyone, perhaps save Arsenio, and he wasn't the target. I know that it's not exactly the freshest, but it has been kept relatively warm, so hopefully this will soothe some of your palate. And he slides two coffee mugs, two thermoses across towards you, Hestia, and you, Melinda. It's almost as if he understands that the scent of blood, that the scent of prey would or could trigger something less than savory. And as the blood slides across the counter, stepping from the shower, stepping from being freshly bathed for the evening, that susurrus whisper of voices from across the veil grows loud enough that you can almost feel their breath on your skins. There are epicenters around the world where the Shadowlands overlap so closely and abut our world so thoroughly as to make supernatural or specifically spiritual occurrences a regularity. Chicago is one of those places. So too is New Orleans, and New York, and San Francisco, and places that have history and local history that is extraordinarily violent or extraordinarily depressing. Seattle surprisingly being one of those such areas because of all of the Shanghai tunnels and the men taken and the women given, unfortunately, and the children pressed gang into labor. Cities with long histories of preying on its denizens have their own balance in the Shadowlands, that those negative emotions, those instances of binding human misery and suffering into the very fabric of the city causes it to have an overflow of such manifestations. And since having arrived in Chicago, you realize that while not the most overwhelming of places, that would probably be Venice, it is very, very close. The energies abounding, swirling and mixing, and things stepping across the veil is second to something. And again, probably Vienna, but not many other cities. Chicago was built on death, from the massacre of the native indigenous first peoples to the several massacres in the fight to maintain the boundaries of the city, to the slaughtering of the trappers and furriers who visited the area to sell their trade, to the fact that there was also, strangely enough, a positive to this area. It was a meeting place and a trading ground long before the French, long before the Americans, long before Fort Dearborn. And those spirits and those investment of energies has soaked into the very ground, has soaked into the very air of the place, and has been built upon by wars and civil strife until now you can feel their presence going all the way back to the very beginning. Is there anything that Sophia, in preparation for the evening, would be attempting? Any ability they are attempting to hang about themselves? Any utilization of the energies about them before she goes and meets her guests?
Probably not tonight. She's got company, so it's best to leave some of that darker side of herself unseen. So she will just get dressed in a little more casual attire than she has been wearing and swap on some makeup and come on down to join the gang.
Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve and oblivion? Oh, there's some things that are just too tantalizing. And while the effort is made to choke back on those energies and move from her boudoir, she pauses in the doorway as the enforcer manifests. He's one of the few in the area who has built on their reputation and died elsewhere but returned to the city. There are quite a few of these spirits, these manifestations of behaviors that have made themselves more and more at home. And he's one of them, having been a right-hand associate and a capo regime to the Capone family when they were operating in the area. The enforcer sees you as just another good-for-nothing trying to take the throne. And periodically he manifests to attempt to bully you into acquiescing, into applying your energies towards him so that he can. And you're not sure because his wars should have been over. His fights for supremacy should have been over. He was the right hand to a petty monster who no longer even has any place in the world. Yet he attempts to keep bullying you, to cow you with his presence into acquiescing and doing what? You're not sure because he hasn't bothered to broach the details, but he wants you to do something and he keeps popping up. You know, there's several ways this is gonna go and none of them are your way. So why don't you just come off what I need?
We have been through this before. I am not here to provide for you. You are here to provide for me.
Yeah, you keep thinking that. Soon. So very, very soon.
What does soon mean to beings like you and I?
And in his frustration, his face slightly melts. Not like a complete full-on wax melting into nothingness, into a puddle. No, it's the melting that bones and flesh does in an incinerator. And he reaches out with this mostly liquid manifested form of his left arm and swipes at you. His haymaker, wide and long, causing the perfume bottle at the corner of your dresser to hit the ground.
Temper. Your death mark is showing. Maybe we can continue this tomorrow when you are feeling better, yes?
And he sinks down into the floor, disappearing as he always does when called out on his petty actions. You manage to keep him cowed by dint of your understanding that there is very little that they can actually do. But without a fetter to tie him to, without something that matters to him, and with his increasing strength, you know it's only a matter of time before something is lost in the exchange.
Well, assuming that he didn't break it, I will replace the bottle back where it goes and head on downstairs.
Silvio is leaning against the Nespresso machine, the two decanters of warmed blood sitting before Hestia and Melinda as you enter into the service space where what would normally be a breakfast nook, but you don't need food, and he rarely does eat in the apartment. He eats in the servants' quarters, which are connected with the home, but not actually in it, as if this very scent of garlic and salt and pepper and all the seasonings that he uses would be offensive. Plus there's the mess to clean up, which he doesn't want to do in the home itself.
As I join the rest, she will lock eyes with Silvio momentarily in an Italian, say, well, perhaps it's time to reach out to Capone and his people if he is there. Our unwanted guest is becoming very tiresome.
But of course, we got a few guys who are keeping a watch on his gang currently. Funny, they don't even know that it's his gang. And this is all said in Italian that Musha can pick out every other third word of.
She'll nod to Silvio and then put on her best unsettling smile for the rest of the gang. I see that you have found the refreshments.
Hestia looks up and very carefully wipes the blood mustache off her lip. And then cleans her fingers off. Thank you, yes. Needed that. It's been a night. And I guess we can consider this morning. You don't look like you had all that great of a morning either. What's going on?
Nothing I cannot handle. I apologize that I am not better stocked. The usual channel would be I would go through a supplier to get my blood, but considering that the supplier is Wolseek and I would rather he choke on his or someone else's vomit than actually speak to him and ask him for anything, I am forced to use other channels.
Oh, geez, you could have asked me. I could have gotten you a good deal.
Yeah, he can. Speaking of which, I think that's part of what the vision was. I know I said war, and I mean that. I feel like there's a battle going to happen in the cities surrounding Chicago. I don't know why exactly yet, but something major happened, and that's why I'm seeing this now. And the other thing that I was talking about for Chicago, Oblivion, she looks at Lucio, Oblivion's going to take over Chicago. I don't know what that means. I think it means something to do with what all this is going on with the Hakata. But yeah.
There's two clans that can use Oblivion.
Well, then that's what I'm saying. That feels like that's what's going on, because it feels like that's going to be a major thing coming up. I know you wanted to talk about what the plans were, and I'm going to say this because we have a problem with this, and we really need to this time stick to one fucking thing first. We can't split the party this time. We can't do more than one thing at one time, no matter how much we'll want to do so. We need to pick one thing at one time and focus on that, and if we can successfully survive that, then we move on to the next thing. Because every time we try to do multiple things at one time, trying to be economists with our time, we fuck shit up or things go bad. And I don't want that this time. So this time we have to focus on one thing. You said something last night about talking to somebody to get us maybe some more time and cover our asses with the council. That's important. I think we need to make that the very first thing we do tonight. And then after that's handled, we need to discover or figure out how we're going to take out the blackmailer. Because that's probably the easier of the two besides catching Vivi. Vivi, we are going to need something she cannot resist and set a fucking trap for her like she did for you. I don't know what that was.
I had assumed we were going to go out and hunt tonight. Are we going to a court? Because if so, I will need to change.
I can give Critias a call and have him buy us some time. And as for... I'm sorry, what was that?
What is it this Vivi wants?
Well, based on what happened last night, I'd say she wants to punish us for something.
And what would that be?
Killed us at any point. Well, I have a few ideas. Based on what she said in the conversation, she probably blames us for for Dizzy's death. Her final death, rather. Everything is driven by passions, so it is perhaps that is the source of her anger, yes? That's possible, but there's...
the brother thing.
Well...
There is the brother thing.
I don't know if she knows yet, though. But...
This is not just her lashing out because she thinks we killed Dizzy or got Dizzy killed. I honestly feel like in my heart she knows something is up with her brother, and she knows he's not coming back based on how Dizzy is hinting to her, and I think she knows. I don't think she knows exactly how we're tied to it, but I think she knows we either know who did it and covered it up or something, and she is mad about that, and she's also still mad about the Dizzy thing, yes. So it's multiple things that she is angry at.
Thinking about it,
circle of that.
Thinking about it, it's actually unlikely that she would know that we had anything to do with it. Because if she did know, you and I both know what she said she would do to anyone and everyone involved in it. And yet we are still alive. She had multiple opportunities that night. From that vantage point, she could have offed us all at any point she wanted to. Instead, she waited until we came out of the house empty-handed to fire her shot. It would not have been a kill shot, though. At least against me. She was not aiming for my head, she was aiming for my chest. That wouldn't have killed me.
So let me ask you this then. What do you think she would give to speak to this Dizzy again?
I think it's less... I don't know if it's about speaking with Dizzy, but to speak with her brother? I don't know. That might be enough to bring her out.
So you bait her. Tell her that you have met someone who can do traffic with the spirits, and perhaps she would be able to speak to whichever of the two she would prefer to speak to.
And funnily enough, and Lucio brings out the ring. You mentioned something about having something that the spirit's tied to.
And up goes Binding Fetter.
Well, I can't say that that is the worst thing. And I would never say that that would be the worst thing. But it is definitively a dangerous thing. Because yes, that ring is very, very potent. It is tied to souls that have moved on. There's no need to actually stare too deeply into it. It is resonant in spiritual energy.
But it is not glowing like a fetter.
It's glowing, so obviously you don't have to roll. And that is problematic. It is definitely a tie to more than one spirit. There's definitely a value to more than one formerly living individual. It's the sort of heirloom that marriages, and that's plural, have been tied to. It is in fact a family heirloom, and those spirits have moved on. That is intrinsically a hook that you could pull several spirits from their final just deserved resting places. You can reach across not just the veil into the Shadowlands, but into the deeper gardens of paradise and pull spirits back into this place. Lucio is holding a treasure, not simply a fetter. And he doesn't even realize it. It's literally like someone holding a manifestation of several hundred thousands of Bitcoin and thinking that it's just something that they found in a vending machine.
She will return her senses to normal and hold her hand out. May I?
Would Hestia know a little bit about that sort of thing?
Unfortunately, Hestia is not an Oblivion mage. She's not one for necromancy. But she does know that she was there when she watched those two souls entwined in love move into the next realm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I know that I wouldn't know the exact reasoning or ties that something would have, but I do, just out of occult knowledge, know that items can be haunted or contain a tie to a spirit. That I would know. So, looking at the ring, what about the wallet instead? We don't want to get multiple spirits, just the one. And the wallet was the brothers, not the ring. The ring might have been the girls. She's saying that to Lucy.
Either way, Lucio, having no knowledge of how fetters function, he says, "Be my guest," and hands the ring to Sophia. And the wallet while he's at it after listening to Hestia. Might try this too.
There are certain moments in movies that are known as needle drops, where the music either moves from diegetic to non-diegetic, where it is indicative and evocative of that moment. If this moment had a needle drop with a song combining, it would be the soundtrack from Jaws. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Ta-da! And the ring would fall into, well, the ring case with the wedding bands and engagement ring would land in Sophia's hands, followed shortly thereafter with the wallet. You can't see a person charging up, you can't see their chi building, but there's no thaumaturgist, mage, wizard, warlock, witch, hedge mage anywhere in the world that would not immediately feel as if someone laid flowers on their grave the moment that the ring box touched Sophia's hands.
She will examine it with a little smile and run her fingers over the rings themselves and say a little quietly, but not like a whisper of, oh yes, I may be able to actually deliver on what I promise.
You are in 1963, and you feel the ring fall into your hand. It is a set of rings that have been passed down from one family to the next, all in the same bloodline, all related, but each instance of nuclear family, which were not the nuclear family at that time. The family were 6 and 7 members, 6 and 7 brothers and sisters, and the eldest child would receive the rings passed down from their grandparents. And in this particular case, now are you sure this girl is worthy of your love? See, Papa, she is all that I could ever hope for. And past them you can see the fields of vineyards stretching out into the distance, rolling over the hills. And you are sure you will not stay here with the family? No, Papa, I must go to her. Her family is there and I cannot drag her away from her family. And you see the patriarch of the family taking the rings to himself so that he can make a way for his family, heading east into the rest of the country. And it's 1913. Still dressed in his military browns, he takes the rings from his father. His mother, no longer there, having passed away due to the cough, due to consumption. And then it's 1868. And you are awash in joy and pleasure as your husband has returned to you. And he finally saved up enough money to get the rings. And he takes your tin copy off your finger, placing both the engagement and the band on your finger in front of your village. And then you're back in the breakfast nook with everyone else.
She will look at them longingly for another couple seconds and then hand them back to Lucio, which is probably one of the hardest things she's ever has to do, but she's trying to build some trust here, so.
Melinda, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your composure and blood sorcery for me, please?
Out of curiosity, how many hunger did that thermos of blood take off?
one in the time. There's some more left in there, but one in the time that's taken for Sophia to get here and you guys to have this conversation. Remember, even drinking from a third mission, while you don't, you don't super chug because then you make a mess of yourself and lose more of it than you should.
Well, then, while the conversation is going on, she's going to keep drinking until she gets down to 1.
Yes, Melinda will also be drinking to do the same. Okay, so
Unfortunately, there's not. There would be 2.
at least to 2 hunger, at least if that's what he can get to her. No. 3? No, I guess.
As a finder of lost things, as a mage geared toward following connections, even without any spellcraft, much like Hesher, you feel the overwhelming sense of something spiritual, nearly biblically so, happening as Sophia takes the ring box, and then hands it back. In the moment that she hands the rings back, for a brief, flickering moment, there are lines from the box sprouting forth past the walls out into the city.
Interesting.
What is that?
I have a certain skill set. I am very good at finding things. It is what I'm best known for. From the box, there are I can see lines going out into the city, connecting the box to something.
Perhaps to this Vivi, but we can certainly use that box to bring her somewhere. Because, like I said, I may be able to actually deliver on the promise of her speaking to her brother again.
Yes, it might be good for to bring Vivi back with the kept promises.
And if I remember correctly, you were in need of a white ribbon, yes? I believe we can find something around here, yes, Silvio?
We can try. I don't have to order out for it, but it's not something that is usually in the repertoire of the ensembles. I'm thinking it has to be actual white, not vanilla or cream, right?
Yes, white silk. Show me your.
And the moment you say what self-respecting kindred wears white, both Lucio and Hestia think to the last time they were in the succubus, and Annabelle entered and was having a conversation with Azuli and the other members of, well, the other high-ranking members of the Roses. She was bedecked from head to toe in a white so startling that even under the black light, it glowed bright white, not the tinted blue or off-white that most other whites did.
A fairly vain one, but that's also why I don't carry white ribbon or white handkerchiefs, because I tend to get bloody more than I would like lately. Dark colors do best. And she motions to the fairly Stevie Nicks witchy outfit she's wearing.
So what is the plan then? You need to make a call to someone from the court to maybe get the sheriff off your tail. It's hard to hunt when you are hunted.
Like I said, I'll give Critias a call.
You'll need me to dial that for you.
Oh, right. If you would. And he hands... Lucio hands over his phone to dial it.
Strangely enough, you realize that unlike most modern people, you don't have a lock on your phone because your phone is always with you, and not many people would bother with your phone to begin with. Silvio swipes open your phone and gets to your contact list, and what's his name would be on the
Professor.
Okay. And he swipes through, dials the number, and hands it back to you. In the doing, you're not sure whether it was purposeful or accidental, but in the doing, he tapped swiped across the phone symbol, and it shifted to speakerphone. Oh, sorry about that, but I thought you might not want to touch it. I don't know. I'll give you some privacy. I'll bring the car around, and you guys will tell me where we need to go, right, boss?
Absolutely. Have we checked on our other guest?
He pauses at the door. He's a tough guy. He'll be as fine as he can be. The doctors didn't really know quite how to deal with that. They're accustomed to wounds like that being more permanent. You know.
I know. Yes. That is fine. I just wanted to see which side of the shroud he was currently on.
He's still with us. And he leaves. It's not the best show of emotion, but it is clear that there is some there. Nothing like a flashing neon sign, but it's clear that they have worked, or at least understood each other, and there's something else that Sophia would be aware of. Part of the conversation they had about Arsenio and that arm of the family. He was actually put through the paces, at least as far as the Pudinescas are concerned. Being put through the paces means being able to go to the mattresses, means being utilized as an associate and working your way up to a soldier, working your way up to a capo regime, and proving your loyalty through being put through hell. The worst jobs, the worst criminal associations being taken into the trust of the higher ranking Don and bosses. And then you either get your wings or you're graduated to Ghouldom to further prove yourself to the family. It's similar throughout the entirety of the family, there's a grooming process. And it is clear that Silvio knows that Arsenio was actually put through a portion of such practices.
I will look to Hestia while Lucio is making his call and say, so your friend there, the Arsenio, did you have a big fight with Wosik to take him away?
Sorry. The strangest set of circumstances is honestly, when we first met Arsenio, he had kind of come to give us a message. And some things happened, and we kidnapped him for a couple days, as far as I remember. And then Lucio ghouled him without telling me. She gives him a quick look. But then, due to that, he's kind of been on our side since. Turns out he had a bit of a thing that was going on where he was kind of mad at the Dawn, and it didn't make it that hard for us to get him to understand our side of things and stay with us. So, yeah, he's kind of been around since then.
And this was the beginning of your feud.
Oh, no. The feud started before Arsenio showed up. It's kind of, well, ever since we took over the shelter. And, that was kind of a thorn in their side. We didn't know about all of this until kind of the son, Junior, Lucio's brother, from another mother, and him kept bumping heads. They didn't quite like each other, and now we know why.
From the other room, you hear Lucio shout, "Do not call him that!"
She gets like this really mischievous, like huge grin on her face, and kind of hides her smile behind her mouth, but then clears her throat. Yeah, so Lucio and him were kind of at each other's throats for a while, and then he kept trying to kill Lucio, and then we had to squash the hit put out on Lucio, and some other bad shit happened. And then all of a sudden we realized the Dawn was back, and then he took over interacting with us directly. So that feud has been going for, I think, a fair while. It just hasn't heated up till recently because we've been standing our ground as far as giving him what he wants. He thought he was just going to come back, flex his muscles, and say, give me the shelter, and we were going to do that because we were scared or something, and that's not how that is. It's not happening. So once we told him, nah, fam, he's like, I'll get it from you either way, mahaha, and twirls mustache.
That sounds just like him. You realize, at least to some degree, what it is you have, yes?
As the person that has been exposed to it the longest in the coterie and that can see what's on the other side, yes, I am very, very aware of what I'm sitting on and what I'm protecting. Yes.
With your permission, of course, I would like to perhaps help you try to figure out its full capacities. You understand one side and I understand the other.
Cassia kind of raises a brow and Yeah, possibly could work, yeah. I kind of think I know what the Dawn wants to do with it. If I'm getting bits and pieces of this whole situation right. But then there was also somebody else that wanted it too, and we kind of thwarted them, so that's more than one enemy that we're kind of having to worry about. Even though I haven't heard from them in a while. They wanted to use it to draw the wolves back into the city and use the wolves to take down the current leadership, which was something that was not going to be good for anybody. So there's that thing. And then the Don has his own whatever the fuck thing he wants to do with it. Neither which is good.
No, most definitely not good.
There's a balance that is always at play. And that balance that is always at play is that to get something, to gain something, typically you have to lose something. And in that loss, in that exchange, the value loss, people try to minimize, try to mitigate. However, that philosophy and that understanding doesn't really mean much, because when you hear the professor's voice on the other side of the phone, for the briefest of moments, you feel as if you've gained far more than you could ever imagine. The pressing depression from realizing just how fucked the situation is dissipates. Not quite to the point where it's completely gone, but it seems far more manageable when you hear his response. Good evening, Lucio.
Good evening to you, too. It's nice to hear a friendly voice.
It is a pleasure that is very hard to describe. I take your trust in me very, very valuably. The fact that you would call me in your present situation, I would say warms my heart, but we know that that is not the entirety of the truth.
So I should have guessed you would already know what's going on.
Not with any exactitude, merely that your fellow hound are seeking you out, and that you have apparently been far busier than could be expected. I'm not hurt by you keeping your secrets, though it is a bit problematic speaking on your behalf, knowing that you were responsible, in part, to the conflagration that nearly destroyed and decimated the Tremere, to knowing that you were responsible for the negotiations being had with the one Kwai in Chinatown, and for understanding that your actions in the south suburb are the reason for the delegates of those dirty lupine who have sought to renegotiate the treaty and peace between our peoples. And again, I'm not hurt, though I suppose I should be. I thought that we had an understanding.
And we do, which is why I hope to speak with you about it at some point when we are in less dire circumstances. But in the current situation, well, I'll just get straight to the point. I need a favor, if you can spare one.
How might I help?
We need time. We're trying to rectify the situation that has been put on us. We're trying to regain our honor. But it's hard to hunt while you're being hunted. If we could have the hounds and the sheriffs off our back for at least a little while, it would make it easier to find our quarry.
Time is, of course, very relative. It seems as if you have fairly influential associates within the government. Our newest Primogen speaks very highly of you all, placing some amount of his own well-being in the fact that you all are taking matters into your own hand to bring in this threat to us all. And I will continue adding my voice to his argumentation for leniency. However, Annabelle is equally influential, and the incumbent Venture Primogen, Ballard, is speaking adversely as well. Marcel has not actually spoken against you, but the fact that he is not speaking for you does not hold or bode well. And our lovely Gango Primogen, knowing that you all are the catalyst for the potential ongoing strife with the Lupines, has not sided with you, but maintains her own voice. Mr. Orm is counseling her to assist you all as best as he might. I believe that his efforts are having some effect. You understand that as much as we push for you, that lenience is not absolvement.
I understand. As the saying goes, the bill always comes due. But if it comes due right now, we're going to lose our chance at finding the culprit and at mitigating the offenses that have occurred against the Hakata. If we at least have more time, we can at least prevent things from worsening. And then, by all means, whatever punishments must come due, we will have to accept them.
That is very noble of yourself and your friends. I do wish you luck. I will continue speaking on your behalf and lobbying for lenience. However, the information provided by Clyde is quite damning. It is his assertion that you all divested the city of Newberry due to his attempts at eating your all whole. But Lucio, Mr. Darcy, my detective, do so quickly so that our voices do not continue falling on deaf ears. This blackmailer, this threat to us all, would be a very hefty and valuable sacrifice to lessen the burdens that will fall upon you all.
The next time we speak, I hope that we are victorious.
Know that you shall be, one way or the other. Know that you have my faith, and please don't squander it.
It means a lot to me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good night.
Good night.
As a coterie, you all have done the impossible and more times than anyone could dare count upon. You all have vanquished together and separately several elder-ranking members of society. Whether they were true elders or not is anyone's guess. You all have stood in the face of lupines. You have bandied with mages, with actual will workers. You have partied with the Fae. You have stood in the way of an army, and you are still this side of the grave. And there are several other actions that you've all managed, but to draw a fine point on it, you never thought that ending a call could count amongst them. But there's something about having the ear as someone who you know is invested in your continued success. There's something about having the dedicated time of someone who wants nothing but your continued growth. There's something about that feeling that washed over you when hearing him come online that makes hitting the end button far more difficult than it should be. And as you end the call, and the conversation in the next room drifts towards the shelter, you take a moment to compose yourself. And speaking of composure, Sophia, do you take the opportunity to inform Hestia as to the details as to why Don Castiglione wants the shelter?
Nope.
I guess you guys won't be sisters by choice.
I mean, trust is a two-way street right now. That's purely Hakata business, so...
So, with conversations had and preparations made, what, as everyone reconvenes in the breakfast nook, what is on the agenda? What is it that you all will pursue most directly this evening?
So do we reach out to this Vivi, or do we go after the blackmailer and hope she is there, or hope she is not there? What is the plan?
The blackmail is a priority. Vivi will come second.
Very well. Do we have a lead?
We had the house. I don't know if it's any good anymore.
Are we positive that they were at the house? Not necessarily last evening, but in general?
Absolutely sure? No. But the person clearly had some control over the place. It seems that they were trying to speak to us through the speaker before I destroyed it.
What is it you know about this blackmailer?
Well, and Lucio takes out from his coat a couple of the files he took with him about the blackmailer from the house. Basically, everything that they had on file at the tech company he runs. And he plops the file on the ground. Or on the table.
Sophia will look at the file and then look back at Lucio and go, perhaps there is a digest reader's version?
Paul Sterry, Chief Executive Officer and owner of Neversoft, a data protection firm whose goal is, well, one of the company's many focuses is red teaming other companies to ensure that they are as safe from cyber attacks as possible. The Neversoft is a company that focuses on technological security, and they're fairly well regarded in the Midwest. They are not the best of the best, but they are nowhere near even in the middle of the pack. They are in the top 5% of companies designed to protect others, granting them all sorts of access to various security systems and data. If there was anyone or anything, any entity that could potentially rival, at least locally, most of the federal departments, the alphabet soup of intelligence, it would be them.
So this is very interesting. This has Canite written all over it. You have discerned that, yes?
Yes.
I also have the beginning of a theory that perhaps this may also be tied to the Dom.
Really? What makes you say that?
The house itself is very interesting. It is not something that most Canites will recognize, and it has been manufactured. Plus the fact the spirits are forbidden from going in, but not through blood warding. It is just a theory. Perhaps we are dealing with something that is not canite at all.
We got a problem. And Silvio moves into the breakfast nook, closing each door behind him. Moving to the windows and triggering the security system, which causes the blinds, the metal shutters to fall into place. The backup generator is thrown on almost automatically because of the security protocols that he's enacting.
Sophia will stand
not
up
a problem. But what problem?
We were fucking followed, and I'm sorry. I didn't realize it. I didn't expect it, and there's no way that they should have been able to follow us, but somebody followed us. Someone got the information out. These are not fucking licks. Pardon my French. I'm sorry, Sophia, but this pisses me off. No bad guys are supposed to come to your house, and these guys are clearly bad.
Well, do we know who they are? Have we seen them before?
We've seen that type. Remember the family house that was raided in Jersey? Bounty hunters.
Ah, so they have sent hunters our way, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you know the type after a couple of years. You can spot them just as easy as you can spot someone up to no good. And these guys are definitely not up to any good, and they definitely understand what they're dealing with. Normal people don't, wooden weapons. Try to conceal them, keeping an eye, scoping the security.
Sophia will sigh. So, are we escaping or are we fighting? How many are there?
Out of the team of 4. They would... For amateurs, they're fucking great. But they're still amateurs. There's 2 watching the garage, so I didn't bother to go to the car. I moved outside for a smoke. There's 1 on the north side of the building, and 1 got watching the alley. I don't know how many more are in backup, but they stand out. Nobody wears that Matrix shit anymore.
So they're like a tactical team then. They are all swatted out.
Yeah, they think that they can pass as normal. I know the fashion has moved on and things are not as classically attractive as they should be for most guys, but yeah, nobody wears what they're fucking wearing. They're wearing those pants that, you can cut and they don't cut, and they're supposedly, tear-proof and all that. And then they got the boots that you can walk on anything that are supposedly nearly indestructible. And then they got the gloves, the fucking punch gloves that everybody thinks is so fucking cool until you realize that they stick out like a fucking sore thumb. This is Chicago, it's not Alaska. There's no reason for gloves this time of year. And then you throw in all of the extra weight that they're carrying. No, that's clear as day. And I'm sorry I didn't spot them earlier, but I'll make sure that they don't do anything. You want to make sure that we're locked down here, then I'm heading back out.
You are certain there are 4?
There are at least 4.
I apologize, my new friends, but apparently my home has been compromised for the moment.
You have a back way out?
I don't know. Do I have a back way out?
Yeah, we got a back way out, but unfortunately, they're sitting around the building. They're looking for a vehicle. That's the reason why they're watching the front and back of the garage. There's only 2 ways in and out of the garage. So they don't know exactly what floor we're on, otherwise they would have been here. And I checked the stairwells and I checked the lobby. They're not in the building yet, but it's best if we lock down here, because it won't be too much longer before they begin to get emboldened with having waited all day, having waited most of the night. Fucking amateurs, they should have came during the day when we were at our lowest. Now, unfortunately, we can put security in place and make sure that they can't get in easily. I'm gonna go start a scene and see who all comes out of the woodworks. You guys sit tight. You know where the armory is, and call me if anything changes.
If you could manage to separate one and bring one here, I'm sure I could get some answers.
We have an armory.
Of course.
May I have a look?
Silvio looks at you. Sophia.
She shrugs.
Yeah, sure. And he walks out of the room, expecting you to immediately follow.
And I follow.
There's what normally would be a walk-in pantry just off of the breakfast nook kitchen portion of the first floor. It is loaded for bear. Literally, you can go bear hunting with what's in here and have a more than significant chance of survival, even if it was just one of you. There are various large bore, large caliber designed to drop things that normally are not stopped. Take what you need, but like the girls and Sophia, I need to go take care of this. Nobody should fucking do this stupid shit. You don't want to tie people in their home. Why is everybody so fucking disrespectful? And he leaves you to decide which weaponry you like. And you can hear him grousing. There used to be a way, and there used to be an understanding. Now everyone wants to be fucking mobsters without understanding that there's a business to this.
Hestia steps into Silvio's way before he gets out. Hey.
Yeah. What?
I got something that'll help you.
I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Do you have a blade?
He holsters a tactical dagger. It's spring-loaded.
She flicks it out, changes her blood composition, and runs the blade across her hand, coating it. Holds it out to him. Don't get this on your skin.
He looks from the blade to you, and back to the blade. You know, I had no intention of actually killing them. But thank you,
This
all the
is
same.
not going to kill them, it's just going to incapacitate them. If I wanted to kill them, then I could do that too, but this just incapacitates them.
Yeah, sure thing. And he squints his eyes like he's not entirely sure that you understand what he means or he understands what you think he means.
She's used to not being understood, especially by guys that are bigger than her and think they're tough. So she just kind of smirks and pats him on the shoulder and walks away with a non-bloody hand so that she doesn't get it on him.
After double checking the security, he heads out into the building to head downstairs and deal with these people. Rousing the entire time. There's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. These guys just fucking. Everyone thinks they're a tough guy. Why do people think they're a tough guy? And much like Silvio heading into battle, it is 20 after the hour. We will be back at 30 after the hour. right, folks, how we doing?
Present.
Doing good. So, Sophia, what did you think about that name?
Okay, just finishing up a craft.
That's definitely old school Spaniard there.
Yeah, yeah. I had to say it out loud a few times to make sure I was getting it right. Like Archcomtessa is is her title. It's Theodosia Maximiliana Bettina Octavia Damaris Adelaide the 12th. And yeah, I asked the DM what kind of names are common for these people, and he said, and quote, basically take the most ridiculous noble name, add 6 titles, and then a few more nicknames, then take a nickname. Also, you'd probably be named after the ancestors, so being a 9th isn't exactly uncommon. And he's like, and then in short, go ape shit. And so I did.
Lucio, did you make it back yet?
I am back now, yes.
Excellent. Well, welcome back. So, when we stepped away, as Silvio stepped away, there is the beginning of the tribulation of combat. There's the tribulation of danger, and that's the truth of it all. You all are in a box in the sky, for lack of a better word. While it's grander than a simple box, and it's not just a standard condominium, because it is literally a house that is at the top of this tower. On your ground floor and lower, your building is surrounded by 4 people, a minimum of 4 people. The room before Lucio is filled from floor to rafter and back with all manner of defensive weaponry, which by its very nature is offensive. It is designed to blow larger and ever escalating holes into and out of targets. It is the sort of place that, well, in castles is where the men are armed. And the very real how did this come to be is settling over Sophia. And it is clear how this came to be. There is a action that is needed by everyone, and that action is, what are you going to do knowing that there are people who wish your harm or worse near your fallback, near your safe house, near where you all are free and far away from your normal surroundings?
For now, Sophia is going to continue to present the facade of calm, even though she's probably fighting back a bunch of rage because they are, they've come to my house and that's too much now. So.
While Lucio is perusing the armory, and sorry if I'm interrupting, he's gonna try and look for a handgun for everyone else and nice quality rifle for himself since he already has a 357 that he is partial to.
Okay, so you're seeking to make sure that everyone has their hands on something that is to be utilized to make sure that they remain this side of the grave permanently.
Correct.
So as Lucio trundles back, utilizing 4 more skill in terms of safe firearm management than one would expect, what is on everyone's mind? What is everyone doing as Lucio starts handing out armament?
Did you find the extra ammo?
Of course.
I think it's perhaps a good idea to have 2 guns for everyone loaded. At least.
Well, I've got
just
mine
in
too.
case. So less time to reload if needed.
I see it's random because people keep giving her guns like she actually knows what the hell to do with them except for point and shoot. She is not a good shot. She doesn't like guns.
Speaking of, how do you load?
Lucio looks around and just says, "Am I really the only one who knows how to use a gun here?"
I am a lady, sir. I had people to do that for me.
You point and click, yes?
I can point and click, but once there's no more things to click out, that is where I run into problem.
Point and clicking is one thing. Point and clicking without it flying out of your hand is another.
As they're discussing the guns, Sophia will mutter darkly to herself and get up and walk towards one of the nearest brick wall or whatever, biting into her wrist as she goes.
No one is absolutely ravenous any longer. I do have to ask, Melinda, do you have iron gullet, by the way?
I do not.
Okay. It has been long enough for the cooling efficacy of the warmed and palatable blood to sit in your unused stomach, to sit in your presence. Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve DC 3? That doesn't include composure, I'm sorry. It was supposed to be resolve and composure.
Okay.
And as Sophia bites into her wrist and the scent of thick, rich vitae begins floating through the room, the warmed blood begins to disagree. There is a small bubble of rejection happening in the core of your being, but you swallow and muscle through that urge to evacuate the less than palatable, the very dead blood from your system. There wasn't enough life in it for it to maintain its efficacy, for it to stay where it was placed. And Melinda, having had to survive on less than great blood on several occasions throughout their unlife, is able to muscle through it. But there is a certain green feeling and wash that passed over your counselor. You need fresh. You need something to cleanse the palate, and you know that eventually tonight that what is in your system will be outside of your system. And speaking of outside the system, Sophia, which spell are you enacting?
I'm gonna summon spirit.
Okay, well, give me one quick second here. I did not open that. There we go. Seriously. Okay, I should have opened that earlier because now it's telling me that I have a network issue. Bear with me a quick second. I'm trying to get the system up in front of me. All right. Would you sometimes go ahead and roll your resolve plus oblivion? Well, now, here's the thing that happens. Blood cost of blood is a common tossed off aphorism. It's a sign of togetherness because of the bond of blood. Often used as a threat of violence and defense, and it is often the precursor to unparalleled violence or unparalleled mercy, one family member to another in times of stress and trauma. Being a mystically minded individual, both Hestia and Melinda, the unfurling of magic is noticeable. It attracts the eye, it attracts the senses, it attracts the gaze, not simply because of the vitae spilled, but because of the power unleashed. And it's a spectrum, a usually unnoticed aspect, but for those who are minded and gifted and such, even those affects of different flavors is like being temporarily blinded. And the actions of Sophia is akin to someone ripping away a shroud and revealing the brightest of laser lights pointed in your general direction. It is the tearing of the veil from this side to the next, and all of those tied to this building, all of those tied to this home, all of those tied to this small tributary of spiritual energy begin manifesting. Souls snatched from their unearthly delights, souls snatched from their wayward wandering, souls mid-death having played that shadow play over and over, souls of things that have been living or never had the opportunity to, that were tied to this building, that were connected with this building, begin manifesting. Some looking as if they are digging themselves out of their grave, ripping up forward from the floor beneath your feet. And while you can't see the details of these spirits, while the details of their imagery and how they perceive themselves slips beneath your notice, the feeling of it does not. The feeling of the area being bombarded with souls and energies from beyond does not go beyond your notice. And while you all understand a facet of what is happening, Lucia, there's a connection between yourself and the oblivion as a whole, between yourself and every world that lives in darkness beyond this one. And you feel it as if someone is wrapping you in several layers of woolly, staticky, itchy, scratchy sweaters. It's as if someone's twitching that nerve that runs behind the eye, causing you to squint and feel the oncoming onset of a headache, because it is very much tied to all of the things that are not of this world, which you are intrinsically linked to.
And he's gonna turn on Oblivion Sight to see what's going on.
Have you seen the original black and white Night of the Living Dead?
No, I have not had the pleasure.
Okay. It revolutionized zombies as a mainstay in the public zeitgeist, because not only was it about the dead coming back to life, but it also touched on several other issues. One of those issues was, what would you do in a situation where things you know should not be possible are not only possible but approvable in that moment, where all of those dark little fears of that lizard-like portion of your brain have come true, as in those nearly and dearly departed return in the state of which they were buried, in the state in which they were entombed. So there are horrors upon horrors. Most of the people and spirits tied to this building did not die happily. They didn't go when they were in their 80s with their grandchildren and with socks on their feet in bed saying goodbye to friends and family members. No, they were mid-party, some falling off railings, some willingly, some accidentally, some by others' hand. They were shot, they were stabbed, they were electrocuted. They hung themselves and hung others. Needless to say, their manner of having been dispatched from this mortal coil, the quickness and the brevity they felt of their life, keeps them tied to this side of the world, keeps them tied to this building. And those not tied to this building and drug along, kicking and screaming by other souls, wear their death mask about them, how they ended. Accidental puncturings, purposeful perforations, being run over by cars, buses, trains, falling out of helicopters. meeting the helicopter blades, and they wear their moments of passing like badges of honor, like the coming of storms. It is the only sign that bad things are going to happen. Spirits normally, when gathering the strength of having managed to gather the strength to appear to the living, do their best to mitigate those signs. In their natural state, that traumatic exit from this world is all about their ectoplasmic flesh. And this willful showing of how they pass, how they exit those, the flesh slaughter, falling away because they were left to this something soul.
This is what you deal with.
So, having concluded her ritual, ignoring the quips there, she will speak to the shadows that she's brought up. She'll say, "We have managed to find a way to live together. I have exercised my restraint in calling on you for any reason. Now, however, someone threatens our home. They come for me, they come for you. They would do us harm. It is in your best interest to help me protect this place, for if they come and get in here, I cannot promise that the building will not go with me. So I ask you to harry them, destroy them, do what you can, but remove them from our home."
Would you roll your manipulation and persuasion? And as you speak, you hear their voice. You feel their cold fingers slide across your skin. You feel their dry, cracking, dead lips following along behind their fingers. This sucking and the scent of dirty pennies issuing from their mouths. Their hands caressing, pinching, and cajoling. And you're there in the dark with them. And you know that there are more of them than there should be. And their hands, bolstered by the shadows themselves, taking every bit of warmth from you, from every place imaginable. And you hear their dead voices with your living ears. And you know that you will never feel the sun on your face again. You will never be warm inside or out ever again. The urge to run is there, to escape into the deeper darkness, away from them, where they can't find you, where you may be able to last until sunrise. But the shame that would bring, shame that you secretly carry with you even now, that intrinsic fear of the dark, magnified, because in this dark, in this cool space with these things that have not lived in longer than you have ever been anything more than a thought. They exist and abide in you. When you shake yourself back to now, as your hunger grows, and by the way, how many dots of oblivion do you have?
Just 2 right now.
There is a rousing of anger. And while you all are not outside, it feels as if you are being buffeted on a hill by wind from nearly every direction. You can feel the rising anger, and it is not the hot, heavy stuff of the living. No, this is the cold, retributive anger of the dead, the howling anger of things that have nothing but anger left to them. This is a cold, dark wind with no mercy, with no warmth, with no milk of human kindness. This is the invective of hate and jealousy. This is a call to the dark that is just in the heart of every being, and that has been magnified by watching the living squander what they were given, by the self-recriminations of having squandered what they had. And it is that same echoing need to fill that void that you all carry, magnified exponentially by each soul that has answered the summons. And as it crescendos, as it reaches its apex, they're gone, sinking into the floor, diving through the metal barrier to the outside world, falling to the concrete below, seeking out the enemies they were warned of, that they were targeted towards, seeking out those who would do harm to this space in this place. And you know, they don't care if they're just a little bit right, if they're just a little bit off base. They are going to vent the fullness of their hate and jealousy for the living. There will be blood. There will be pain. There will be nightmares had by those sensitive to these things. Children and animals. And older people who have not lost that spark, that connection with the other side. They will each feel the passing of these things. They will each, depending on their intrinsic connection and strength of vision, see and feel these things about them. And then the gunfire starts. And then the cries of mercy starts. And while you can't hear tears, you know that there are a sea of tears being cried as those who can see or feel these things become aware.
Sophia will turn back to the other people who are still here as she licks her wrist shut with a sort of snarling sort of sneer for a moment and says, "Violate my home uninvited." And then she will kind of compose herself and come back over and just sit down like nothing's going on.
I'm sure Hestia, feeling all of that, eyes will be huge as saucers, and like her, I hate to say it, like, normally it wouldn't be something that would happen with her. she is giving this woman some space. Like, she is backing away towards the room that she knows Arsenio was left in as kind of like a way to protect him, just in case anything gets past this, but she doesn't think anything's gonna get past this. And it's kind of an excuse to run away at the same time. But she's not gonna say that's why she's leaving. She's just, somebody should be with Arsenio. Yeah, I will be last man standing between him and things, okay? I'm going this way. And she, like, all but, like, books towards the room that he's in.
Lucia?
Lucio looks at Sophia and says, well, geez, that's... I don't know if that's overkill or just downright scary, but...
Should we still kind of roll your intelligence and resolve, Lucia? While Lucia rolls that, Melinda, being privy to that amount of darkness, is there anything on Melinda's mind?
She is worried. Like she's worried isn't the right word. Apprehensive about it. But at the same time, the people outside are a threat to the people in here in the house, and they have threatened Sophia's domain, haven, and so Linda's like, no, like, this power is interesting, but Sophia is defending her haven, and if that keeps the group safe as a whole, sometimes you gotta open your wrist.
And speaking of opening risk, Lucio's put 2 and 2 together to get 22. As a child, he was beset with nightmares, feelings of the darkness closing in around him. Every child fears the dark once they grow old enough to realize that there is a dark, where the instincts of our animal past and our need for fire begins to take root. So for in Lucio's case, it wasn't just a phase. It was the feelings of being a victim. It was the feelings of being preyed upon. It was the feelings that things were not right. There were moments where rooms would be suddenly colder. There were moments where he was sure that things and beings were watching him. And he thought that it was just his own imagination until Stella started experiencing the same. And what he's learned about his blood, what he's learned about how members of the Castiglione are brought into the family as a whole, understanding what lies behind that name, he realizes that there's a very good chance that over the entirety of his life, his sister's life, that he was the victim of various hauntings purposefully sent. These
spirits Can they just appear wherever they want, or if they are not near their fetters, would they have to be sent?
It is not an easy question to be answered. Some can go as they wish, some can be sent. It is not a one-size-fits-all.
And speaking of one size fits all, there's one thing that definitely fits everything. Every living thing. Everything, not just human, but every living thing. Plants, animals, human animals. Everything that has a life has a death. It's part of the spectrum. It is part of the same system, part of the same mechanism. And Asha enters what has been made into a hospital, basically. There are all manners of equipment and saline and blood and yeah. While the healing is increased, there is still very much the risk to his continued existence, because living, he is prone to risk of infection. He is prone to all of the warmth and life being drained from him. And healing takes quite a lot of energy. And so even with the increased speed of it, Arsenio is not out of the woods. It normally takes anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks to physically heal from a gunshot. The mental scars and emotional ones last far longer, as so too does the infections that naturally accompany such a thing. And while he's not the largest of men, he is surprisingly well endowed with muscle. He is surprisingly well sized. And seeing him low as this, literally dancing on death's doorstep, even with the efforts and labors provided, there is no doubt in Hesha's mind that death had come for him. And only do the efforts of Sophia and Hestia, and only do the gifts of Lucio's blood, did death decide to wait. Not leave, just wait. If Arsenio stops fighting, if what's keeping Arsenio here falters, you are sure that he is as good as dead. He carries it with him. It's literally sitting there by his bed, holding his hands. If he gives in, or these machines stop due to a power outage, there is a very good chance that Arsenio will not see the next day. That Arsenio will not be here. And as painful of a thought as that is, there's one far more troubling that Hesha hasn't given voice to.
She, very quietly, as not to wake him, approaches the bed and sits very gently on the edge of it and stares at him for a minute. And thinking about that thing that is unsaid, the thing that she realized as they were hiding themselves away for the day. Frowning and glad that nobody is in the space with her because of the way her thoughts are going. And looking at him, she knows he could probably hear her, maybe, but she's not sure. And something about that, I guess, gives her permission, I would say, to say what's on her heart, I guess. And she puts the gun where she can grab it if she has to. But looking down at him, Sin, I yelled at him because we almost lost you. I yelled at him because I told him that I loved you. But what I'm fighting with right now is the fact that it's still true that I do love you. And I don't know how to feel about the fact that I'm realizing that I probably love you because you remind me of him. I couldn't have him, so I took you. You're far enough removed to not be problematic if things go wrong. But you're close enough to fill his shoes. We've saved each other 1,000 times over. When I almost died the other night, he came back for me. And when our lives were on the line, and I could only save one person, I saved him. And I should have saved you if I loved you as much as I professed to. And I'm realizing that now. But I still don't want you to stop fighting, okay? I need you to stay here because I don't want to lose anybody else. He can't lose anybody else. I don't think his heart could take it. So, even if you don't stay for me, stay for him, okay? We're gonna do everything we can to make sure that nobody gets in this building. Just like we have to fight, you have to fight. And while she's doing that, she's already given up a little bit of blood, but having remembered to let that poison in her blood fade, her blood is back to its normal potency, its normal self. And then she again opens her palm and drips it into his mouth, boosting his healing further so that it's harder for him to get an infection, or speeding his healing enough that it shouldn't be so easy for him to slip away if something goes wrong tonight. And I'll take that extra dot of hunger instead of having to roll for it.
Okay.
Licking the wound closed, she scoots to the end of the bed and just watches him sleep.
one moment into the next, as the violence changes people's lives, as those who have come with every intention of doing harm to others have the opportunity to have that harm visited back upon them. A lifetime of war, a lifetime of combat, literally 15 minutes. Later, Silvio is making his way back inside. There's an unspoken understanding amongst families. So there's no doubt in Sophia's mind that if Silvio had reached out, that the families would have sent those men that they could. Sometimes it's used as a way of, nana and boo-booing each other, but they have an unspoken understanding that no one but them can take out each other if it comes to it. And there's a way that it has to be done to not upset the apple cart of anyone else's ventures, to not slow any projects down, to not create the opportunity for others to take what is theirs. And that was not something that Silvio did. He didn't reach out. He handled things himself, and Sophia's efforts with the spirits, adding nothing more than violence and kerosene to the fire. You're sure that the efforts are already being made with Silvio having reached out to his local contacts to clean up the scene so that no one else is involved, so that it doesn't reach the level of being noticed by anyone outside the families and being noticed by anyone outside the building. But the scars of the battle will be clear for those who know what to look for. And lo and behold, you have in your presence now a would-be hunter, a would-be tracker, a hunter and killer of kindred, a very mortal hunter and killer of kindred.
Like he brings one back with him?
Yep.
She will stand up and move slowly towards Silvio and his guest that he's brought back. So you wished to speak to me, did you?
I know what you monsters do. You're not gonna break me.
You have no idea what us monsters do. You only think you do. You care to tell me who has sent you?
Redwood knows what you guys are. Now we know what you guys are. We'll deal with you.
Yes, you did a bang-up job tonight, did you not?
He tries to draw in as much liquid into his mouth so that he can fit upon who and what you are. Unfortunately, Silvio knows the sort of people that would do such things, and throws a near-at-hand kitchen towel over his face as the man attempts to wad up, let spittle fly. The towel instead wraps around his face, followed quickly on by Silvio punching him dead center of his forehead, right between his eyes at the bridge of his nose, and you guys hear a crunch as it happens.
I will attempt to make eye contact with him after that happens. And if I am able, I will use compel and command him to kneel.
Well, now.
Melinda just says, it's like his mother never taught him manners. Acting this way in someone's home. Immature and disrespectful.
It is almost charming that he believes, because as he has been taught, that should we end his life, that we are done tormenting him.
As if there's not other things we could do.
Does the man kneel?
Fuck you.
Manners.
Boss lady, you see this guy? You really want to keep talking to this guy? I'm gonna take care of him.
I am a bit hungry. If you would be so kind, Silvio.
I am a bit hungry myself, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
She will, assuming that Silvio grabs him and holds him in place, she will say, I don't mind, and I apologize in advance. As her fangs extend, and she will move forward and bite into him.
So will Melinda's.
All right. So, several things happen, as they tend to do. There's a portion of Lucio that's a little bit let down. There's a portion of Lucio that's a little undecided. Because he was expecting this. Instead, the battle was handled by things that shouldn't exist this side of the world, shouldn't exist in this world at all. Silvio, even without seeing him in action, you know where those sorts of skills have come from. They come from the same place that Arsenio learned his trade. They come from the same place, or a similar place to where Vivi learned her trade. And watching him return relatively unscathed, a few rips and tears here and there, what looks like a growing black eye, with a captured member of those aligned against them, leaves him in a conflicted place. The gun's unspent in his hand. And as the hamster wheel of his thoughts begins to rev up to operational speed, the scream that tears from him the moment that Sophia bites into him is blood curdling, even for a kindred. It is the pain of not only the death of the physical, but the pain of a soul being lost on the other side. It is a thing that causes sheer terror on an existential basis in everyone who is within earshot. And Hestia, you hear this scream of absolute fright, drawing you out of Arsenio's hospital room, for lack of a better word. and you see Sophia and Melinda feeding on an extra from one of the Matrix movies as Silvio holds his arms behind his back with a foot placed firmly into the center of the man's back, holding him in place. But even with all of Silvio's size and bulk, it is just barely, as this man is fighting as if he is the recombinant living clone of a tiger in a human's face. He is screaming in sheer terror and attempting to wrench himself free. Instead of the blissful, near orgiastic joy and pleasure of the kiss, this is its almost complete and total opposite.
The fuck is that? And what is going on? Why is he screaming?
So Sophia will detach from his neck long enough to whisper in his ear, "Do you want some more, or are you ready to cooperate?"
Hello?
Melinda will detach and say, "Our host, the friend, brought us a what is the word? Sent a note from outside. Sophia attempted to engage him in conversation. Asked why he watched him home, who brought him here. He was very rude. His mother taught him no manners. No manners at all. And me and Sophia were quite angry."
There's a dissonance and a seldom known truth about the kiss when it comes from the family members. While the pain and the need to fight are always present, what most victims rarely have the opportunity or the vocabulary to express is that all of the feelings of the kiss are still there beneath the pain. It is literally a hot, so bright and fervent that you get cold from it, or a cold so increasingly frigid that you immediately are burned by it, meaning that the terror and pain of the kiss is still there. There is no doubt as to that. But underneath it, the near narcotic-like bliss and the physical release that accompanies the kiss is there as well. It is the most conflicted that a being can ever be in. You do not want it more than once, but there is a portion, a physiological facet of the mind that still experiences that bliss. And it is the worst place to be. Both things true at once. And it is nearly mind-breaking when paired with the unbridled pleasure of a non-familial kiss. It is hell. A pleasure so sweet that it is painful, and a pain so horrible that it is pleasurable. And that glazed fear and need are all over him. monster. I hope you die. And you will die. There's more of us than you can ever imagine. And Redwood's not going to let this... And Sylvia applies more pressure.
Little. What is that name?
She will purr in his ear while Melinda's asking him the question. And do you know what happens when you die? Because I do. Oh, your torment is only beginning, my friend.
What's coming for you? As soon as we figure out your... Fuck you very much. Why we have your brother, you fucking monster. Sylvia frowns.
She'll bite back into him at that point.
Melinda will also rejoin her.
The cry is no less pained. The sheer terror, and while losing 2 drinks, moving towards 3 and 4 drinks of blood is no small feat, no small amount of loss. The fight has not left him. The need to be free of this pain and this pleasure and to be away from this moment has not left him. He hasn't given himself over to the void, to the fact that there's no escape for him. The only thing he can do is suffer. Not even death is a certainty, though physically, that is a guarantee. There's much blood being taken from one person so quickly. In the struggling, there is but one outcome. And it's not if, but when. Lucio, Hestia, you've been in a room when a kindred has been tortured. Watching it being done to a human, a living, breathing person, is different. Even knowing that this person was there to do harm, there is the fact that the cries coming from him are very much human cries. They're very much warm and alive. The pain that he's feeling is not the memory of pain, but the actual fact of it. And while Shane may have been innocent, he was stupid. This person, however, simply met overwhelming force. It wasn't because of stupidity. If Silvio hadn't been more trained, you all would have been in the limousine on your way elsewhere. If Sophia hadn't tapped into the very real army of the dead, you all would have fallen into their clutches. If fate had granted this person undeath, there was a very good chance that this situation would not be as it is. All of those things didn't happen. What did happen led them to this moment. And you can tell that the kiss for him is torture.
Hestia heard the part about the brother and it kind of sticks to her, and she gets closer despite the fact that this is bothering her. She gets close and gets eye level with him, which isn't far because she doesn't have to stoop far to get eye level with him being on the floor. And is his head free? Like he can move his head around?
And as he is struggling against this onslaught of never-ending torment, he can try, but he has 2 kindred on both sides of his neck feeding from him, and as he struggles, making their bites larger, he is, well, yes.
What hunger is Melinda at now?
Well, this will be the second drink, so. But you're saying yes?
She's going to very gently grab for his face between the two of them and focus him on her and say, whose brother do you have?
Your brother, Emily. And would both Sophia and Melinda reduce your hunger to 0?
Oh, because 0.
Because we killed him.
Yeah. Because the reason I was asking is because Melinda was going to stop at 1. I was like, okay. Because she started eating at 4 and she was down to 3, so she was just going to go down to 1. So it's like she drank a bit more than she intended. Oop.
There's a moment at death where every mage, every thaumaturgist, every warlock, every necromancer understands the energy inherent in death. It's the reason why the more powerful, darker arts always require a sacrifice of life. When the soul of a being moves from its current state of existence into that after, into what is post-life, whether that is being embraced or sanguinated, or in some cases, according to rumors and myth, being granted immortality via the spell of life, it is the equivalent of a nuclear weapon going off. It is a ripple of energy that washes out, providing almost unlimited power in that moment if captured. And while it's sad, while you feel some sort of way for the loss of life, the part that you won't really address out loud, unless of course you feel comfortable with your current crowd, is the waste of that energy not being put forth to a spell or working of great magnitude. And you both know that his name was Elihu. He is a 3rd generation hunter. He married at 19. He and his wife have been all over the country. You know that he has raised his children to follow in the family footsteps. You know that Redwood is one of the most prolific recent new hunters to the movement. And you know he felt shame. Not from dying, but by being in his final moments. Mentally terrified and physically enjoyed to his fullest.
Sophia will stand and hold out a hand to Sylvia, waiting for a handkerchief or something to wipe the blood off her face. And will say to no one in particular.
I'll say to no one in particular.
Yep, just to whatever spirits might be lingering.
What did she say?
To toss him into the storm or forge him. She didn't care. She's done with him.
Silvio slips the black handkerchief into Sophia's hand, letting the body hit the floor. Not because he has any disrespect for the guy, but it's hard to do what he needs to do with one hand tied up holding a corpse. What needs to happen now is the bandsaw in the workshop area needs to be turned on, and the parts need to be dissected small into steak-sized portions and prepared for removal. The contents, the soft tissue, the offal of this body needs to be worked so that they can get it down to the sausage factory. And there are several other things that need to happen. There are a group of Nagaraj in the south suburbs that utilize every portion of a corpse, and there is a premium that they pay for fresh.
Hestia's hands kind of fly off of his face at the moment of death, like she was being burned. And she sits back hard onto the floor and just kind of looks at him for a minute. Like, gazes locked with each other because she was looking into his eyes when he left his body. And she looks back over her shoulder at Lucio, the obvious distress on her face. But they have Dizzy's brother. That's who he was talking about. They don't know Dizzy's dead, and they took her brother. Fuck. That complicates so much right now. I mean, it might be a way to get Vivi to come out of hiding if we can tell her that they have Dizzy's brother. She would want to protect him, obviously, but oh God. This is not good.
What was the other name he said earlier when I asked who sent them?
Redwood.
Okay, we know who he is now, kind of. Or Melinda and I do anyway.
Yeah.
She will look at the coterie and with a sincere sort of eyes downcast, she'll say, I apologize for you having to witness. I hope the information, sparse as it was, proves fruitful to you.
And as if at the worst possible moment, you all hear the bandsaw going on as the body is being dismembered in the work area to the rear of the building.
Silvio, close the door.
Sure thing, boss lady. Sorry about that. And then the door closes. And while it is still audible, it is much, much lower. It sounds as if someone is perhaps having a hairdryer on in the next room versus the loud roar of all of those horses racing, causing the blade to slice so easily through the decedents.
The absolutely messed up thing about all this is that Hestia is thinking how much easier it would be if they had a bandsaw in the morgue, because she's almost always up till now have to done this by hand. So she's just sitting there, and that's going on in the back of her head about the bandsaw, but at the same time she's still pretty mortified, and she's got her hand over her mouth, kind of trying not to throw up right now.
Lucio walks over to her and puts a hand on her shoulder. I know it's rough for you, but We gotta focus.
I know it was unpleasant, but they would have done worse to us.
Swallowing and like taking in those unnecessary breaths, but kind of calming her inner self. She looks up and nods. I know, but it's still so much fucking death lately. The church. Fuck. I think they were all the Don's men.
They were.
That's not good. Which means he probably has ties to that blackmailer, but I wanted to say earlier, before all this happened, Ballard also has ties to the blackmailer, I'm pretty sure, because that's how we found the blackmailer in the first place. Ballard. And Ballard is one of the fucking council, so he's probably not happy right now with us. That could be another problem.
Attempting to speak out against us in the council, according to Critias.
Well, then that's probably why, because he knows we know. That we could probably tie him to the blackmailer. Which means we need to get to blackmailer. I don't know if it's safe to leave after all that, though.
Probably not. They may still be watching. When their friends don't come out, they will either investigate or continue to watch, but we are probably homebound for the evening.
It's weird saying that, because while it's not meant as a statement of here lies home, at least not for the other members of the coterie, it's very much in this moment, and most recently has been a sanctuary, a home of sorts. You all were prepared to not defend yourselves, because defending yourself would have been to shoot your way out and escape into the night. You all were prepared to defend this property. You all stood by as a soul was tortured for information. You all were willing and have sacrificed a portion of yourselves for this place. And as that thought settles in, and we understand what lay ahead for the coterie, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night all. It was a good time.
Yeah.
I really am enjoying Sophia's character.
Yeah, she's about a 180 from Dizzy there, though.
Oh.